All right, hello and welcome. Today we're going to dive into this really fascinating thought experiment. It's all about pushing the very limits of human willpower. And the setup? It's so simple. Just two people, a board game, and one single, all-powerful fan remote.
So, have you ever really wondered what your willpower is made of? We all kind of think of it as this, deep inner strength. But what if I told you it has way more to do with your environment, your biology, and yeah, even plain old luck? Well, this little experiment we're talking about, it's going to put that whole idea to the test. Okay, so let's set the scene. We're calling this the fan standoff. And on the surface, it sounds simple, right? Just two people trying to enjoy a board game on a pretty warm day. But sitting right there between them is the source of all potential conflict and cooperation, the fan remote.
All right, so the rules of the game are what make this so brilliant. They're basically designed to create conflict. So, step one, two people play a board game. Simple. Step two, a single fan remote is placed right between them. Step three is where it gets interesting. To change the fan speed, you have to get your opponent's consent. You have to ask permission. And then step four, here's the kicker. Every single time you refuse a request, you get one willpower point. So as you can see from step five, the person with the most refusals is crowned the willpower champion. The real game isn't the board game at all, it's this.
But wait, there's a hidden trap. And this is my favorite part. If anyone, doesn't matter who, refuses 3 requests in a row, the fan automatically kicks into maximum overdrive for 2 whole minutes. The remote is useless. It's just a piece of plastic. You both have to just sit there and endure this crazy wind. So you see, being too stubborn doesn't just hurt you, it makes things absolutely miserable for everyone.
So, you've got the rules, you've got the setup, but how would this actually play out with real people? Well, let's meet the players. We've imagined 4 classic personality types dropped right into this high-pressure, high-temperature situation. Let's see how they might handle the heat.
Okay, first up, player type A, the considerate. You know this person. For them, saying no is almost physically painful. At first, they're just going to agree to everything. Then, when they finally manage to refuse just once, they're hit with this intense wave of guilt. They'll even say, I love you, just to smooth things over, all while they're secretly melting and insisting, no, I'm fine. Next, of course, you've got player type B, the competitor. This person sees those willpower points and their eyes just light up. It's game on. They immediately start refusing every request, and you can tell they're getting a real thrill from saying no. They're the one who's going to gleefully trigger that maximum overdrive penalty, jump up and shout, I won, only to immediately regret it when that gale force wind hits and they're suddenly teary-eyed begging for it to stop. And then we have player type C, the strategist. Oh yeah, this person isn't playing a game with a friend, they're playing chess. They're analyzing their opponent's every move, looking for weaknesses, timing their refusals for maximum psychological damage. You call them out on it, they'll just look at you and say, this is a test of willpower, not emotion. They'll even try to meditate right in front of the fan during the penalty, right before they start sneezing uncontrollably. Last but not least, player type D, the sensitive. For this person, this isn't some abstract game, it's real. They're genuinely vulnerable to the heat and the wind. Their focus on the board game just collapses. They start making these really dramatic complaints like, my eyes are drying out. And eventually, they'll just threaten to quit the whole thing. The physical discomfort just completely takes over. Okay, so you can imagine what happens when you throw these different personalities into the mix, right? It's a mid-game meltdown waiting to happen. Things just escalate, and they escalate quickly. Let's actually look at a timeline of how this absurd situation unfolds. So here's how it goes down. 1 minute in, everything's totally civil. They're probably playing rock, paper, scissors for the first fan setting. Cute. 5 minutes in, the first refusal happens, and it's met with a little threat, like, you're eating dinner alone tonight. Fast forward to 15 minutes, and desperation is setting in. Now the threat is, if you refuse, I'll actually cry. And then, at the 20-minute mark, bam, maximum overdrive hits. And now you've got both players huddled together like penguins in a storm, saying, this is harder than exams. And by the end, the winner is boasting, my willpower is incredible. Just as a loser gratefully grabs the remote and turns the fan off. So, at the end of this whole ordeal, the points get tallied up, and we have a winner. A willpower champion is crowned. According to the rules, it's the person who refused the most. Simple as that. They stood firm, they endured the wind, and they won. But hold on a second. This is where we really need to stop and think. Is the person with the most points really the true champion of willpower?
Did they actually win because they have some kind of superior inner strength or moral character?
Or maybe that's the wrong question entirely. What if the very idea of a willpower champion is just an illusion?
And that's because the real lesson of this entire crazy experiment isn't actually to test inner strength. It's to show that what we call willpower is unbelievably dependent on all these factors that are completely outside of our control.
Yeah, this really gets to the heart of the willpower illusion. On one hand, you have the common belief, right, that willpower is this pure measure of inner strength, discipline, maybe even your moral character. But on the other hand, you have what this experiment teaches us. Success is often just a product of context, biology, luck, and your environment.
Let's dig into that. Why did the winner actually win? Well, think about it. Maybe they were just naturally more resistant to heat. Or maybe they were already a pro at the board game, which freed up all their mental energy to just focus on refusing. It could even be that their personality just doesn't feel that social guilt from saying no. See? It wasn't some heroic act of strength. It was an advantage that was just baked into their unique circumstances.
And what about the loser? They didn't lose because they were weak-willed. Not at all. Maybe they were genetically more sensitive to temperature. Maybe they just had a poor night's sleep and their patience was already shot. Or, and I love this one, maybe they were just too absorbed in having fun playing the actual board game to even care about winning some silly contest. And this right here, this is the big takeaway. It's not you, it's the game. When you find yourself struggling with something and you start labeling it as a failure of willpower, take a step back. Maybe it's not you. Maybe it's the game you're being forced to play.
There's this amazing quote that sums it all up perfectly. The winner wasn't a champion of willpower. They were simply the puzzle piece that best fit the unique conditions of today's game. If the fan were a heater, the winner would have been different. I mean, think about that. If the challenge was different, the strongest person would have been different. Context is everything.
So I want to leave you with this question to think about. What game are you playing today in your own life? And really ask yourself, are the rules of that game, the environment, the expectations, the timing, are they actually set up for you to win? It's a really powerful question, and the answer might just change the way you think about your own willpower forever. Thanks so much for joining me.